Okay, welcome students to our live session. So the purpose of hosting this session is we're going to look at Unit 5, which entails transport management. And we're also going to review and go over important information you need to know for your final assessment 1. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear me and I'm audible on your side. So like I said, there's two parts. One is we look at Unit 5, and the second part of it, um, we're going to address any question that you might have regarding FA1, and I'm going to explain to you how FA1 is, how you go about completing it as well. Okay, and please note the session is being recorded, so you will be able to view your recording on ICANN as well. So let's start by explaining transport management, right? What are the learning outcomes under this Unit 5? So firstly, you must be able to discuss the role of transport in logistics, identify the different modes of transport in logistics, explain transport costing, explain transport infrastructure, and explain transport delivery as well. All right, so these learning outcomes are very important because it tests your understanding of what you're required to know by the end of this unit as well. Okay, so let's first start by explaining the concept of transport management, right? So as you can see on the slide, it states that transport management describes all processes along the supply chain from the selection of the right supplier to invoice processing, right? It also is or involves companies trying to precisely optimize these processes with regards to price performance ratios. Right, so as we're going along as well, guys, if you have any question, please post it on the chat box as well, and I'll respond to you. Okay, right, so sorry about that, guys. So as you can see the diagram, it says transportation. These are some of the factors it includes. That transportation entails delivery, manufacturing, product, destination, supply chain, distribution, inventory, and cargo. Okay, so you can also go about explaining that, okay, transportation management specifically is the process, of planning, organizing, coordinating of the movement of goods or people from one place to another, right? So it's what is being used to transport goods or move goods, right? Correct term would be to move goods from one place to another. So transport management involves the management of different modes of transport, right? That we're going to look at in the following slides. What are the different modes of transportation? Right. So for the movement of goods and services efficiently, effective transport management is important, right? We need to have the correct transport management strategies and systems in place that will ensure that the goods get from the company or the retailer to the customer. Okay, and it includes functions such as route planning, scheduling, tracking, and monitoring the movement of goods and people. Right, so transportation management, it further involves coordinating with suppliers. You need to coordinate with suppliers, customers, and other stakeholders to ensure that transportation needs are met in a timely and cost-effective manner as well, which is very important. Okay, so let's look at the next slide as well. So this basically sums up what is transportation management. Simple terms, transportation management is the movement of goods, right, from the company or retailer or wholesaler to the end consumer or the customer, right? And then you have the role of transport in logistics. Now, what is the role that transport plays in logistics? Remember, if transport is the movement of goods, then it plays a big role, right? In logistics. because you have to move the products. How else would your customers get the products? And so therefore, we can say that transportation provides the flow of inventory from points of origin to in the supply chain to destinations or points of use and consumption. So basically what I said is movement of goods from your point of origin, which is your retailer, wholesaler, manufacturer, to your end user, which is your customers or individuals that buy your products or services, right? Now, most businesses manage both inbound and outbound logistics. Inbound logistics involves the procurement of materials and goods from supplier locations. So transport plays a very crucial and important role in logistics, okay? Because without transport, you cannot have an effective, or you will not be able to have logistics management, okay? And then the different modes of transport in logistics. So logistics managers, they hire the courier who fits port trades, right? Whoever can move the greatest volume of product with the greatest speed over the greatest distance at the lowest cost. So the modes by which companies approach these four aspects of shipping has changed over time and is still changing to this day. So each of the six modes of transport has its own advantages and disadvantages for shippers to take into consideration as well, okay? So there's different types and modes of transport, and most of you all, of course, are familiar with the different modes of transport. Okay, so let's start by explaining road transport. Okay, just sorry about that, guys. The internet or the network. Um, okay, so they should be able to see it. Okay, so the first one you have is road, right? This is a very common mode of transport that is used in logistics. So road transport is the most profitable, okay, because it is the cheapest means of transport available. Now, the main reason is that, for example, a truck is not as expensive as a ship or plane, and it does not require a large specific infrastructure such as ports, stations, or airports. It is the fastest and most agile mode of transport. Although other means are faster, road transport is much more agile, and the preparation of the shipment and the startup of the service is much more immediate, and it makes it the most efficient option for short and medium distance, right? So like we said, it's the most cheapest and the most cost effective and the fastest way as well, right? Next you have is maritime as a mode of transport. You guys can see it. Okay, so maritime as well, right? This refers to, of course, like water transport, because it involves shipping, right? It involves shipping. And if you look at in South Africa specifically, um, water transport or maritime is limited to deep sea vessels with, feeder services between coastal ports. So no inland waterways exist, and South African ports are used by various international shipping lines for the different cargo types in bulk, break bulk, and containers as well. So this is if you're transporting large volumes of goods, even internationally. So you'll use maritime as well. It is not that cost efficient, but nonetheless, huge companies make use of it. Then you have what we have, which is called air transport. Okay, so air transport, remember, even with air transport, you're limited, right? Because the plane can only, fit a certain amount or a certain size of goods as well. So air transport is the most expensive mode of transport, although it provides the fastest service over medium to long distance. But another advantage is that businesses can fly their goods to almost any destination in the world, and having a variety of different aircraft for different purposes and cut down on travel time, right? But there are also disadvantages with air transport. Sometimes, if you know that it's more, what's happening is that planes are getting or they're disappearing in the air. They can't track them or find them. So a lot of strange things have been happening with airplanes as well, right? And these goods sometimes there's always a risk with any type of a mode of transport use, even with road. The truck can meet into an accident, it can catch on fire, or your goods can get lost and damaged, and be destroyed, and then you lose out as a business. Even with shipping, same story. So every mode of transport, right, has its advantages and disadvantages, because anything can go wrong when you're transporting goods, right? It doesn't necessarily mean if you're transporting by road, your goods are going to be safe. No, any mode that you use, there's always a disadvantage attached to it, as well as there is an advantage to it. Okay, so air, there's also a risk involved with it. Same with rail, right? With rail transport. Okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure why it's freezing. So with rail transport, it's very dependable. Okay, it's the greatest advantage of railway transport is that it's the most dependable mode. It's not the fastest or cheapest, but it's the most dependable mode of transport, as it is least affected by weather conditions such as rains, fogs, snow, compared to other modes of transport. And it's also very organized. It is better organized than any other form of transport, and it has fixed routes and schedules. Its service, its service is more certain, it's uniformed, and as regular as possible. It is compared to other modes of transport. There's also high speed over long distance, but same with rail as well. The rails, it can clash in with another train, and and you can catch on fire. So a lot of things can happen as well, even if you use rail transport. Then you have intermodal as well, okay, which is another very effective mode of transport. And you have pipeline as well. Pipeline is a much older method of an older method or older mode of transport, and each one of these modes are explained in detail in your study guide as well. Okay, so with every mode that you choose, there's always costing that's attached to it. So transportation costs are subset of travel expenses that refer specifically to the cost of business transportation by car, plane, train, etc. Right? So it's all the cost involved when using a specific mode of transport. Expenses such as fuel, like if you're using road transport, for example, you have to fill petrol or diesel in order to transport your goods to the end user or the customer. There's parking fees, there's lodging, especially if it's far distance, right? Say it takes maybe 3 to 5 days, then it's going to include lodging where the driver will need to stay as well. Meals, telephone charges incurred by employees can be claimed as transportation costs. So there's a lot of cost involved with transport as well, right? Then you also have transport infrastructure. As transport infrastructure, referring to roads, like we said, is the most common transportation infrastructure that we use daily. Bridges and tunnels are structures that allow people to cross an obstacle like a river, a valley, or a road, or if on foot or by a vehicle. And then you have lastly, which is transport delivery. Now, it is simply the mode to execute the planning or moving the product from A to B. And logistics delivery, on the other hand, makes it all possible, factoring in the following: product packaging, containerization, documentation, and of course, insurance. Right? Like I said, each of these topics that we covered is explained in greater detail in your study guide, which you're required to go over as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to reshare it now again, but this time I'm going to share your FA1 prep document. Okay, that is on my screen so dull. Okay, so can you guys see my screen? Right, you should be able to see FA1 prep document. Thank you. Right, so this is the same document, guys. That has been uploaded onto iCan4U, right? So this document has been uploaded onto iCan4U. I did send you guys an iCan message stating that the assignment 1 has been opened, so you can complete it on iCan. I gave you examples of questions that you can expect for FA1, and I told you that you need to study unit 1, 2, 3, and 4 to answer FA1, right? Because all of the questions come from unit 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the due date for it is on the 9th of October, but I did open it now. So you have time to complete it now. For those students that would like to complete it earlier, you can, but the same document is uploaded onto iCan4U. It gives you similar questions that you can expect in your FA1, right? So if you work through it, you'll see there's true or false questions. You'll see there's options that you have that you choose from as well. Okay, so it's only strictly multiple choice questions. I told you that there's no short questions or long questions. It's only multiple choice questions. You need to get 50% in order to pass your FA1, right? And it's due on the 9th of October. The prep documentation is just a guide to help you show you examples of questions you can expect. And I told you that, right, if you go onto the system, every set of questions are different, right? So you won't have the same set of questions in that order specifically for each student. I told you the order will be different for every student, but it's the same questions you're all going to get in different orders. It will just randomize from unit 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you have to study unit 1, 2, 3, and 4. You must be able to know your content, and that's where the questions are taken from as well. Okay, and like I said, it's open. The portal is open. You are able to submit now if you'd like to complete it, even during the weekend. Spend time, do your assignment. As long as you get 50%, for example, if your assignment is out of 30 marks, right, then you know you need to get 15 and over out of 30 in order to pass your assignment or FA1 as well. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and just answer questions that you may have as well. Okay, like I said, the recording will be uploaded onto iCan4U for your convenience.